Hello, hi, my name is Shana Asby. I am the family life coach. I'm coming to you today to talk to you about how homeschool education actually allows you to educate the whole child. Within being a family life coach, I have learned to observe children where they are, as well as bring to the forefront some of my techniques that I use from parenting. I also have written a program called The Right to Knowledge, which I teach in the foster care system, where I give them a great foundation of where to begin, learning the pillars of self love, family, community, education, and purpose, which is located in the Right to Knowledge program. As well as writing the program, I also have been called, I am also a 4 times published author. You can find a lot of my books on Amazon. I do want to introduce you to 2 books that were part of my foundation. One of them is called A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich by Alice Childress. The second one is called The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. These books were a part of my foundation in youth, and I'm so ecstatic about that. My mother introduced them to me. So, A Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich is a story by Alice Childress that contains incorrect grammar, misspelled words, and a lot of slang. My mother basically told me what you will read would determine how you speak, and how you speak would determine how you write. So so grateful for this. The second book is The Miseducation by the Negro by Carter G. Woodson. This book I really didn't understand as a child, but as I became older and I reread the book, I understood what they were trying to explain. One of the things that they were trying to explain is that the education system that we're currently under within the public schools was only subjecting us to work in the factories. So we were only supposed to receive education to work in the factories and not to go further than that. Yes, it's true. So once you read the book of the Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson, you'll be able to understand the public school sector a little bit better. My mother stated as a child that she would put me on punishment and I would go in my room and read a book. So when she realized that that didn't work, she decided to make me write book reports. So I'm grateful for that. Even these 2 stories as my foundation on life. It started my foundation, rather. Also, being a parent, also, I wanted to find the best type of education for my child. So within that, I took him to many different schools trying to find him a great education. The types of school that I actually took him to consisted of an African-centered school, charter schools, public schools, private schools, evolution schools, virtual schools, as well as self-directed education. My son was able to obtain a lot of different knowledge or information from all of these schools, which allowed me to observe and realize that our children actually learn more when they're actually open to a plethora of information as opposed to a narrow perspective of information. I loved it. Now, I can say out of all of them, self directed education was definitely the best for me because it kind of gave me a grasp of who my son was and what area or field that he should go in and become an adult. And I was able to basically self direct that with him and give him courses that would help him attain that information. He wants to be a language interpreter. So that means that we were to gain his, build his curricula according to that within the homeschool environment. Also, I believe that a lot of things that comes when it comes to the homeschool education should be started at home, right? So that means that we have to build relationships and start bonding with our children. And then bonding and building relationships and learning our children, we're able to learn who they are by observation. So when my son was younger, I actually observed him crawling around and going to the VCR tape that was on the floor or the VCR player that was on the floor. I saw him trying to put the cassette tape inside inside the VHS player. I didn't bother him. I just allowed him to continue doing what he was doing. But through observation, I noticed that he was consistent. He would not give up until he actually put that cassette tape which inside that VCR player. This told me that that him that the way he's going to learn by doing, but he's also going to be that type of person that's going to be able to accomplish anything that he put his mind to because he's persistent. That's through that observation what it told me. Another one incident that happened when he was a child was when he was in kindergarten. When he was in kindergarten, he was able to attain student of the week. While obtaining student of the week, he was able to eat lunch with some of his peers on the stage. He was also able to be the teacher's assistant. He received a a certificate with that, and as well as his picture on the board. Within the next few weeks, he was acting up in school. And so when I asked him, like, Marcus, why are you acting up in school? Don't you want to be student of the week again? His response to me at that time was, Mom, you can only get it one time. I thought to myself again, wow, this kid is too smart. So I had to be witty or outsmart him. That's what this told me. So those are things that through observation, that when building bonds, when teaching from home or homeschool education, that we can be aware of to help enhance those skills or other things so we can learn our child. That helps as far as homeschool education. Now, also through my observation of not just my child, but other children, I also learned that for every 2 children that people have, that one child is more left brain or more right brain. So that one child might be more left brain. The second one may be more right brain. But in understanding this, it actually completes the whole child, right? And the reason, my theory for that is that so we would not only have to support on ourselves, but we have to learn from each other. Now, triplets, twins, it's the same thing. They're all different, but one is more left brain and one is more right brain. We just have to acknowledge this and see it for ourselves. Now, with that learning, with me, by learning this, I understand my role within in the village, right? So that means that they say it takes a village to raise a child. I believe this. Now, through my girlfriend's observations and friends of mine, they're able to show me things that I didn't even see because it takes us as a unit, right? But these are a few of the observations that I basically have observed. Another one is, again, like I talked about before, is the left brain thinker and the right brain thinker. Now, when it comes to children that's more left brain, they're more logical, rational, have objective, systematic, and they're great in math. They're the ones that people consist of as being more the followers, meaning that the data comes in and they're able to act within the data that comes in. Now, when the right brain thinker, he's the more creative person. They love the arts, they're great in the imagination, they're random, and they're emotional. Now, the ones that's the right brain, they're great at music, they love music, and they're great thinkers as well. Now, what I realized is that the system that we're currently in, they more appeal to the left brain thinker because they're more logical and they follow direction. Now, the right brain thinker, they're more the master builders. They call them the master builders because they're able to create and think outside the box. They're creative. If you ever seen the movie called The Lego Movie, it talks a lot about this. So the right brain and the left brain is definitely a great place to start to understanding who your children are so you can help them shape to become whole. And whatever they're missing, you can actually educate them on that or take education from a whole different angle to give them that wholesome type of learning or understanding. What I also realized is that in history, when it came to leaders, we always had 2 leaders. One was more left brain and the other one was more right brain. So here we have Malcolm and Martin. Now, which one do you think is more left brain and which one do you think is more right brain? So I say that Malcolm was more of a left brain thinker because a lot of his information he got from somebody else, but he was able to be self-educated but the information came into him first, and then he was able to spew that information out. When it came to Martin, he was able to take the education that he learned from somebody else and create a whole movement of what he wanted to do, and he had to think outside the box in order to do it. Now, as time progressed on, those two people were able to understand more of the other person's learning style and that they were different. Instead of coming apart, they were starting to come together. But of course, that was later in their life and later in their learning. Tupac and Biggie, the same way. They were both great artists on different pages. One was more left brain and one was more right. I'm going to ask you, who do you think was more left brain and who do you think was more right? You tell me. I'm going to leave that one up to you. Now, my son was given an assignment a couple of weeks ago, and the question was, do you feel that people or humans have stopped evolving? My thought was, no way have we stopped evolving. We are always supposed to grow mentally, physically, and spiritually. When we stop growing mentally and spiritually, we're in trouble. We should be learning every day, keeping our minds open to learn something new. I look forward to learning mentally, physically, and spiritually. And it's our jobs as parents to continue the growth of our children mentally, physically, and spiritually by observing what they don't have and teaching them what they need to know in order for them to move to that next level. And when they're ready, we should be adding on to that. And they'll be learning how to adapt to the environment that they're in and learn from people, other people around them. Learning styles. Different learning styles is definitely a great way to understand who your child is. Our children need to know that they learn differently, and we need to be, as parents, know how our children learn. This will actually help you in understanding who your child is if he doesn't do something to the point of where you thought he should do it to, or how he's learning in school. There's 12 different learning styles. Some of the ones that are different learning styles are listed right here on the screen. The first one is visual, a visual learner, an auditory learner, tactile learner, kinesthetic, sequential, simultaneous, logical, verbal, interactive, indirect experience, direct experience, and rhythmic melody. Now, the three types of learning styles that people usually adapt to within the school system or different places are visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Now, a visual learner is the type of person who learns more by seeing. They have to sometimes watch a movie, see a video, go outside and see the views. The person that's more auditory, they're the person who actually listens. They learn by listening, maybe a speaker, a presentation, or by music. The person who is more kinesthetic, they actually are more hands-on people. Sometimes they have to be hands-on, get in the groove of learning how to do it by action. Now, there are some people that have a plethora of different learning styles. There's nothing wrong with you having different learning styles. So you might have to see it, taste it, touch it, smell it, breathe it, as well as do it. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Another part of learning at home is creating characteristics. Our children need to learn how to have integrity about their character. That comes from having morals that are set in place or inside of them that they know, if I do this, I'm going to look bad, and I have to set some type of standard about myself for me not to do something or feel bad about it. Another one is ethics. When it comes to ethics, oh my goodness, understanding that every cause has an effect. There's a consequence for everything, and every action has a reaction. And I should know this. That's going to morally, it's going to impact everything about my integrity or characteristic. When it comes to values, these are different things that I hold dearly about myself, and I value them. And then one of those things of value should be how we carry ourselves with integrity and our characteristics. Every time my children go out the house, They are representing us, and they should know that. And even their children, when they have children, they're representing them too. This is something that we need to think about. In the family life coach, which Shana asked me, the family life coach, I actually have a creed that I have the family sign that talks about you as a person and what this family actually stood for and what we should stand for as a whole. Every family member actually signs this creed, and it becomes the family motto. I love this part. The Bible basically states in Proverbs 22 is that you train up a child in the way that they should go, and they will not depart from it. I feel so strongly about this proverb due to the fact that if a child goes untamed, uneducated, undirected, and they're just out in the wind. How do I know? Because a lot of times that was me. I didn't receive that whole education. And through observation and my own learning of looking at myself or self reflection, I was able to understand this. I had, of course, the education part when it came to school, but what I lacked was I didn't know my self worth. I didn't have integrity. I didn't know about characteristic styles and how important it was in order to understand that. I didn't know I had a different learning style until I got to college. But a lot of these things would have actually helped me in understanding who I was as a person, right? As well as self directed education. I'm following along and not understanding that I should be finding out who I was because high school is going to end one day and I have to go to college. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely a very important piece. So that foundation of a child is definitely important. We have to learn that we have to shape and mold that and not leave other people to shape and mold that for us. That means that the current education or the educational system that our kids are in, a lot of us are working and we're not thinking about how our children are being trained up at school. Martin Luther King stated, I have a dream that my four children will one day live in a nation where they not be judged by the color of their skin, but the content of our character. Again, character is everything. Everything in this day and time, it should be about integrity. It is our duty as parents to shape and mold that character to become greatness. I hope you like this presentation that basically gave you my views on education and how education actually helps you shape or help you educate the whole child or homeschool education rather. Home attains the best type of education. Observation of children is definitely one. Growth and how we're supposed to be growing mentally, physically, and spiritually. Understanding your child's learning style and maybe even a learning style that you may have that you didn't even know you obtained. Ethics, morals, and values become with integrity. We should hold our children with high standards, right? But that is only taught at home. The Right to Knowledge is a program that I actually taught or teach within the foster care system and everywhere that I go about self love, family, community, education, and purpose. These are the pillars because I believe that you have to have these pillars to set yourself off in life. If you think about self love, understanding who you are, self worth, and know that, then you'll be able to understand family. If you get in the family or you're in a family, you'll understand how to love family because you understand how to love yourself, right? And understand that everybody is different. But even though we're different, we can still come together as a family and learn from each other. And if you know who you are within the family, you don't have to worry about who everybody else is. You'll know your role and how to connect people everywhere else in the world. Because family, I believe, is the first set of people that you could deal with before you deal with everybody else in the rest of the world because you can't divorce your family. They're going to always be your family tomorrow. That's to teach you how to get along with other people. When it comes to community, I have to understand that what I do in the community or what I do in my house affects my community. And what happens in my community affects me. It's an indirect reflection. And I need to be involved in community so it can have the best output, right? Or the best outlook on life for other people and for myself. When it comes to education, we'll be forever learning for the rest of our life. Learning is not just a today thing, it's an everyday, it's a lifestyle and purpose. Understanding to get to your purpose, you can go through these different steps to understanding that you have a purpose in this life and you will be able to understand what your purpose is by accessing or knocking on the door of all of these pillars. Being a family life coach is definitely enjoyable. You get to meet so many people and you get to meet so many different children and you get to work with them on so many different levels. But being a family life coach is so meaningful to me because of my foundation and how I was brought up. So I am able to teach and educate and have fun with the family and teaching them how to bond. There are many different services that we actually offer. You can look them up at www.beautifulbyshana.com or you can call me at 803-415-9682. Thank you so much for this presentation and enjoy your day.